Welcome to our March Madness first round best bets video. I do have a bunch of other lanes as well if you're interested in the other games. Check out Twitter or ask me in the comments. But the sake for this video, we're just going with my top 5 picks for the first round. So let's get right into it. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you're enjoying the comment, let me know what you're taking. If you have any favorites for the first round matchups. We do have 5 games to look at, so let's get right into it. First one, Morehead State, number 14 seed versus the 3 seed Illini. These two teams come into the game at 26-8, despite Illinois playing a much tougher schedule. Anytime I'm looking at a mid-major versus a Power 5 matchup, I check the size of both teams first. Illinois doesn't have a huge paint presence, but all their players are pretty much 6'5" and up. Morehead State, on the other hand, is built very similarly, which I love for the matchup. Illinois is the 7th best rebounding team in the country, which would cause a lot of issues for other mid-majors, but Morehead is actually the 13th best team in the country on rebounding, and they should definitely be able to hold their own with those bigger guards on the Illini side. It's really given them an advantage throughout the season. But I am curious to see if Morehead State will be able to slow down Terrence Shannon and Domask. That's always the big if when playing Illinois. These guys could go for 30 any night, especially Terrence Shannon. Just had a 40-point game in the Big Ten tournament. But if Illinois does get out to a slow start, as they did in really all those Big Ten tournament games, I really like Morehead State's chances to cover this spread and maybe even be a big upset. TSJ is a great player, but we saw the Big Ten tourney favor star players and Edey, Terrence Shannon, send them to the foul line over and over. And I don't think he's going to get the same treatment in March Madness with the refs also working to make it to the second round. I'll be honest, the Big Ten tournament was not reffed well at all. People were arguing all over Twitter, and it absolutely benefited Illinois, which being an Illinois fan, I can't hate, but I don't think this team is elite or as better as some of the teams we've had in the past. Illinois has the worst rated defense among all teams in the KenPom top 10. And I think Morehead's leading scorer, Riley Minix, is averaging 20 and 10 on 54% shooting. I think he'll absolutely be able to get his buckets in this game, as will the 6'5" guard, Jordan Lathan. They got size. I don't know how well they're going to be able to match up on the defensive end, but I do think they're going to be able to get enough buckets, especially with the way Illinois' defense has been playing the last couple weeks. Like, everybody's scoring on them. Additionally, Morehead shoots the 50th most threes in the country and is 30th overall in three-point field goal percentage, while Illinois has really struggled to defend the three-point line at 213th in the country. So I think both Minix, Lathan, these guys are going to get their shots. They're probably going to fall. The big word here would be like an 84 to like 100 type game. I really think it's going to be high scoring. Both teams should definitely get their points. I definitely think we need a Morehead State solid first half, and Illinois has been kind of playing into that. They didn't look great in the Big Ten tournament despite winning it. They played really good second halves, but playing that kind of basketball in March is just a recipe for disaster when you're not playing a full basketball game for the full 40 minutes. But the points, in my opinion, are way too much at the 12, so that's going to be our pick in this one. And who knows, like we said, maybe they get the upset. I don't think it's very likely at all, but Morehead State, a solid team who could definitely score the ball well. At plus 12, I like that number a lot with how bad Illinois' defense has been playing. Moving on, I try not to get as analytical with this one, and I'll be straight up. I'm betting McNeese plus 6, but I'm also taking them to win this game in my bracket. That's not going to be the official bet. But Gonzaga has improved as the season's gone along, but this is by far the worst I've seen their team in over the last decade. And with their tournament history over the last few years, that doesn't bode well for them. Not being able to really get the job done in March, and then now even having your worst team heading into the tournament. I'm just not sold on these guys and the WCC conference this season. But these teams are both top 20 in true shooting percentage, so I do expect another game where we're going to see a lot of points scored. But the difference is McNeese backs it up on the defensive end, where I don't think Gonzaga is quite there defensively. McNeese generates more steals as a team than they commit turnovers, which is an absolutely unreal stat when you think about the amount of turnovers from traveling, offensive fouls on like charges, push-offs, or throwing the ball out of bounds that really don't result in steals. McNeese generates more steals than they turn the ball over. His team values possessions, and they also find ways to create more. If you watched LSU a couple years ago when Will Wade was there, he's now the McNeese head coach, but this is exactly what they did, and it won them a ton of games in a tough SEC conference. This McNeese team they're very high IQ. They take care of the ball, they generate steals, and they take good shots. They do give up a little bit of size, but Drew Timmy's gone. I don't see a dominant post threat on the Gonzaga roster to take advantage. Anton Watson, he's pretty solid. And then you got Huff off the bench. But yeah, there's no dominant Drew Timmy guy who's going to put up 30 on your post in this game. And that's kind of what I'm really looking for when I'm looking at these mid-majors or Power 5 conference games. And the one last stat to show you just this team's intelligence. They're 8th overall in three-point field goal percentage, with making more than half of the other teams in the country while they're in the bottom third of three-pointers attempted. So they don't shoot a lot, but they make them at an insanely high rate, and they'll probably still make more threes than the other team will attempt. Gonzaga, being a good three-point shooting team, this probably won't be the case for this game, but McNeese, they're taking the right shots, they're holding on to the ball, they're creating extra possessions with turnovers, and I think it's a team that you could see as a 12 seed making a run to the Sweet 16. Who knows? They might lose the game straight up, but I do think +6 here is a great number on McNeese. Third matchup is the number 10 Drake Bulldogs versus number 7 Washington State Cougars. And another one kind of jumped to the point, but DeVries is the only reason I would really go with Drake in this game. You see there the size is my strength for Washington State, but Drake just doesn't have the size for this matchup. Washington State is 44th in the country in rebounding, while Drake is 200th. For a matchup, you say the spread's about even. Those extra possessions on the glass and maybe easier buckets on putbacks, that could easily be the difference in this game if you're getting those extra 4 or 5 possessions over the course of the 40 minutes, especially when you're saying the spread's even. I think that's going to be a huge advantage for the Cougars. And to me, Washington State, they're weaker in the backcourt, definitely depth-wise. They don't have a lot of guards with the Joseph Yesufu injury earlier in the season. But Miles Rice, he's been phenomenal for a freshman. I don't normally love to lean on freshman guards, but I don't really see a Drake guard that's going to take over this game and kind of steal the spotlight. He'll probably match up with Connor Enright, who is actually from the local area, and I think Miles Rice would have a very favorable matchup with him. But Drake, they're middle in the country at generating steals, so I really don't think they're going to put a lot of guard pressure on Washington State. And they do rely heavily on Tucker DeVries, who's an outstanding player. He's back-to-back Missouri Valley Conference Player of the Year, 3-level scorer, kind of like Connect, who we've been giving a lot of praise to. But you look a layer deeper, and that's another reason I don't like Drake in this matchup. Jalen Wells should be able to play him pretty well. You can't shut him down. This guy's averaging over 20 points a game. He could score from all levels, but Jalen Wells at 6'8", very athletic wing, will probably be the toughest matchup for DeVries on the entire season, with him basically face guarding pretty much every possession. Because Darnell Brody, the 7-footer on Drake, where he might be a big mismatch in some of these Missouri Valley Conference games, Washington State has the size to stay with him for the course of the game and probably even get him into foul trouble. But with Jalen Wells on DeVries, this is like the main reason for my pick. And because I view DeVries as really the reason that makes this team go. You saw it when they came back against Indiana State in the conference championship tournament, and he's clearly going to be the focus for Washington State defense, who's really good. Brody, like we said, he needs to stay out of foul trouble. Washington State, they have 4 players that they're going to start in the starting lineup that are 6'8" and above. They'll bring another 6'11" guy, 6'7" guy off the bench. So the size is just ridiculous. If they're able to slow down DeVries, as I think their game plan will be, I really like their shot in this game with dominating the glass. Washington State plus 1.5 is the pick. And then with our fourth game, we got New Mexico, who's actually 11 spots ahead of Clemson in KenPom, despite being the 11 seed and Clemson being the 6 seed. And after the run in the Mountain West tournament, it seems like everyone is on them, but they are genuinely the better team in this matchup. If you check the betting odds, they're actually 6th best in the region to make it to the Final Four in the West. Also being in the West region, I think you might get a little bit of the home court advantage. Obviously, it's not going to be in New Mexico, but Clemson is on the East Coast. But that's kind of my one qualm with bracketology. I think they did a horrible job setting it up this year and absolutely stacking the East region. But here we are with New Mexico as the betting favorites with the 11 seed in the first round. And I think UNM, similar to McNeese that we just touched on, but I think they're primed for a run in March as a lower seed. They have a great backcourt. I listed there as their strength, but between Donovan Dent, primary playmaker, and then Jalen House and Jamal Mashburn Jr. These guys are a three-headed monster. Dent can score and pass. House, more of a three-level scorer, and Mashburn, undersized guard, but can get to the rim well. And if you look at just their stats for this season, they haven't shot the most efficiently, but House's and Mashburn's stats have actually been better, or at least more efficient, in the last couple seasons, and still averaging in the teens. And I think that's kind of the form we saw from the conference tournament. But it's going to be tough to find a better backcourt than this one, as far as guys who can create their own shots and just make a bucket down the stretch, which to me is extremely valuable in March. Clemson, they're led by P.J. Hall, dynamic scorer, can shoot threes from the center position, but he even has a tough matchup with Nelly Jr. Joseph in the paint, who's been a solid rim protector for now both Patinos in his career, previously playing a few seasons at Iona. But yeah, I mean, P.J. Hall is going to have a huge game. Joseph Girard will have to have another big game from the three-point land, but I just can't go with Girard over New Mexico's backcourt. And their posts are solid enough to get stops and keep them in this game or winning in this game. But I did look into it still, as I said earlier. Clemson does have the size advantage on paper, but New Mexico actually averages more rebounds per game. And that's kind of the gist I get from these teams, or watching both of them. New Mexico, ultra aggressive, and Clemson, they're kind of a front runner. If they're not playing with the lead, their defense really lacks. They don't go for the 50-50 balls. On paper, they got some good shooters, got a little bit of size, but I just don't see Clemson as a winning basketball team. I mean, they are a winning basketball team. They're in March, but I don't see them winning games in the tournament this year with just how bad they've been on the defensive end. And like for the Lobos, their backcourt, they are small and they actually don't shoot the ball super well. But with Clemson lacking rim protection, their posts being more of a scorer, this is where their guys are going to make their money. And I have to go with New Mexico winning this game, and we'll see. Maybe we'll have them taking the next one as well. But I think New Mexico at -2 is still too good for me to pass up in this spot. Then wrapping this up, we got an 8 versus 9 matchup. Nebraska versus Texas A&M. Two teams who didn't win their conference tournaments but had nice little runs and kind of finished out the season strong. But the real story in this one will come down to if Nebraska can stop A&M from owning the glass. A&M is the second best rebounding team in the country, first overall in offensive rebounds, and it is definitely a part of their DNA and how they want to play. But it's absolutely essential because they shoot they're 348th in field goal percentage in the country. When I read that, I'm more alarmed by how bad they shoot the ball in comparison to how excited I am about their rebounding. I think being first in offensive rebounding, some of that's probably due to you can't make a jump shot. I mean, they kind of got hot in the tournament, but I'm really not buying into Texas A&M's little run here. at sitting 20-14 now with a 9 seed in March Madness. For example, their leading scorer, Wade Taylor, he's shooting under 37%, and he takes the most shots on the team. Like if you're only making closer to a third of your shots, like you're in trouble. He takes a lot of hero ball shots, and while it's worked out for him last year when they won the SEC, we're now seeing it's not something you can rely on each week. They went 20-14 this year. Yeah, I don't think he's just going to magically return to their run in the SEC. That did feel a little bit fraudulent, but regardless, they are an outstanding rebounding team, which could still be a difference in a game. Nebraska, they haven't been good in a few years, but this season they are definitely legit. They're top 25 in three-point makes. It's really the flip side of A&M. And if they get it going from beyond the arc, this game could get out of hand. A&M has been mediocre at even guarding the three-point line this season at 182 out of 362 teams. Other than rebounding, it's hard for me to find another reason to really love A&M. Yes, they have Wade Taylor, Tyrese Radford, so you got some experience. You got some guys who've been there before. But this Nebraska team isn't young either. Not that they were in the tournament last year or anything, but it's not these guys' first run. A lot of these guys are upperclassmen, even the transfers. So I do like Nebraska a lot in this game at -1.5. I think they are the much better team. We'll just kind of see if A&M could get this into a dogfight style matchup. They could definitely find their way to a win, but Nebraska has the better scorers and the better rated offense. Outside of rebounding, Nebraska owns this matchup. And just to add to that, not really a game decider, but CJ Wilcher should be back too after battling an illness. Big spark plug off the bench for Nebraska, averaging over 8 points per game. When you get that off the bench and swing a score by 8 to 10 points, that makes a big difference. And the Aggies are definitely lacking that on their side. I wouldn't overthink this pick. I like Nebraska a lot at -1.5. That's it for this video. Let me know what you guys are taking in the comments. We will have more bets coming out. And one last note, if you made it this far, it will most likely be wrong, but if any of these top 1 or 2 seeds get knocked off in the first round, I do think Western Kentucky has a good shot to do so against Marquette. They are double-digit underdogs, so not very likely, but I think if you're looking for a little bit of magic in the bottle, that's the way to go. But good luck this week, and let me know what you guys are taking. Thanks for watching.